I didn't find out my husband was cheating because of a text, a receipt, or a rumor. I found out because the other woman called our house phone and introduced herself as his fiancée. I had been married to Daniel for 6 years. 6 years of building something I thought was real. 6 years of showing up to his business dinners, his mother's Sunday lunches, his late nights when he'd come home smelling like boardroom stress and cold coffee. I gave that man everything, every soft part of me, and every quiet sacrifice. My name is Evelyn, and I was a fool, not the obvious kind of fool, it's the invisible kind. The kind that keeps the house beautiful, keeps herself together, keeps smiling at events while something deep inside her whispers that something is wrong. I ignored that whisper for 2 years. I dressed it up in excuses. He's busy. He's stressed. He loves me. He just shows it differently now. That Tuesday evening, I was in the kitchen making his favorite meal, jollof rice with grilled snapper, when the house phone rang. We barely used it. I almost didn't answer. Hello. The voice on the other end was calm, polished. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply said, "Is this Daniel's wife? I think it's time we talk. I've been with your husband for 2 years, and last week he asked me to marry him." The spoon dropped from my hand. The rice kept boiling, and the world I had carefully built, quietly, lovingly, brick by brick, cracked straight down the middle. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there in my own kitchen, in my own home, holding a phone that had just detonated everything. Across the city, in a glass tower no ordinary man could enter without an invitation, Shiwu sat behind a mahogany desk staring at a single photograph. It was a photo of me. What would you do if you got a call like that? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Daniel came home that night like nothing happened. He loosened his tie at the door, kissed my cheek, and sat at the table I had set. He picked up his fork. He complimented the rice. And I watched him. I watched every casual movement, every comfortable breath, every lie wrapped in normalcy. "How was your day?" he asked. I set down my glass slowly. "A woman called the house phone today." He didn't flinch. That was the part that destroyed me. He didn't even flinch. What woman?" "She said her name was Claire. She said you proposed to her last week." Silence. Not the panicked kind. Not the guilty scramble I expected. Just silence. Like a man calculating his next move on a chessboard. "Evelyn, don't." My voice was quiet, steady. I surprised myself. "Don't manage me right now, Daniel. Just tell me the truth." He exhaled, leaned back, and then he said the words that killed whatever was left. "I didn't plan for it to happen this way." Not a denial. Not even an apology. Just a man telling me that my marriage had an expiry date and he'd simply forgotten to notify me. I stood up from that table with my dignity still intact, barely, and I walked to our bedroom. I packed one bag, not everything, just enough. And as I walked out of that house, I felt something strange beneath the grief. Relief. Across the city, Shiwu's phone buzzed. His right-hand man, Kang, spoke 2 words through the line. "Not, she's leaving." Shiwu closed the photograph on his desk, stood slowly and said nothing. He didn't need to. He had waited long enough. I drove until the city blurred. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. In that house, in that life, in that version of myself who kept pretending. I ended up at my best friend Nadia's apartment. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside without a single word. That's the thing about real friends. They don't ask questions when your eyes are doing all the talking. I sat on her couch and stared at the wall. "He didn't deny it," I finally said. Nadia sat beside me, silent. "He just said he didn't plan for it to happen this way. Like I was a business deal that went sideways." My voice cracked on the last word. 6 years, Nadia. 6 years, and that's all I got. She handed me tea I didn't drink. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying moments. His laugh on our wedding day? How the way he used to hold my hand in public like he was proud. Were those real? Or had I been performing a marriage alone this whole time? By morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to fall apart. I called my lawyer. I called my bank. I was methodical, cold, and precise, because that was the only way I could survive the next few days without breaking completely. What I didn't know was that my number had been quietly passed to a man I'd never met. A man who knew Daniel better than I did. A man who had been watching my marriage unravel from the shadows, and had already decided that when I finally walked away, he would be the first person I heard from. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against every instinct, I answered. Evelyn, the voice said. Low, certain, like he already knew me. My name is Shi Wu. We need to talk. I should have hung up. Every sensible part of me said to end the call, block the number, and focus on surviving my own disaster. But something in his voice, like that absolute calm, held me on the line. How do you know my name? I asked. I know a lot of things about you, Shi Wu said, including what your husband has been hiding, not just the affair. My grip on the phone tightened. What does that mean? Meet me, 1 hour, the rooftop restaurant at Celine Tower. I'll explain everything. I almost laughed. Meet a stranger at a rooftop restaurant in the middle of my marriage collapsing? But he said not just the affair, and those 4 words wouldn't let me breathe. I went. Celine Tower wasn't a place ordinary people walked into. Every surface gleamed. Men in black stood at every corner with earpieces and blank faces. I felt every eye track me as I stepped out of the elevator. He was already there. Shi Wu stood with his back to me, looking out at the city skyline. When he turned, I understood immediately why a room full of dangerous men deferred to him without a word spoken. Like he was tall, composed. A faint tattoo crept up his neck above his collar. His eyes, dark, still, unreadable, landed on me and stayed there. You came, he said. You said not just the affair. I crossed my arms. Start talking. He gestured to the seat across from him. Sit down, Evelyn, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see the last 6 years of your life. I sat, and as the city lights flickered below us, Shi Wu slid a sealed envelope across the table. Yeah, your husband doesn't just have another woman, he said quietly. He has another life, and your name is tied to all of it. We're at the halfway point, and things are about to get darker before they get better. Do you think Evelyn should trust Shi Wu? Comment below. I want to know what you think. I stared at the envelope like it was a weapon. Open it, Shi Wu said. Inside were documents, financial records, property transfers, contracts bearing my signature. Except I had never signed them. My hands started shaking. What is this? Your husband has been using your identity to launder money through shell companies for the past 3 years, Shi Wu said, no emotion in his voice. 12 accounts, 4 properties, all in your name. When the investigation closes, and it will close, you're the one who goes to prison. The room tilted. That's not possible. You never signed anything. He forged everything. He slid another page forward. This is the forgery analysis. My people confirmed it 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. You've known for 2 weeks? My voice rose. Why didn't you? Because I needed to know you were leaving first, he said simply. Something cold ran through me. What does that mean? For the first time, something shifted in his expression. Not much, just a fraction. It means I've been watching your husband's operation for over a year, and somewhere in the middle of that, I saw you. I watched you show up for a man who was dismantling your life behind your back. He paused. I wasn't going to hand you evidence while you were still defending him. Silence stretched between us like wire. You have 2 options, he continued. Let the investigation swallow you whole, or let me protect you while we build a case that puts Daniel away and clears your name. I looked at this man, this dangerous, controlled, impossible man, and asked the only question that mattered. Why do you care what happens to me? He held my gaze for a long moment. Because someone should have, he said. The days that followed were the strangest of my life. Shi Wu moved me into a private residence, secured, quiet, away from anything Daniel could reach. I had my own space, my own floor. He never imposed. But every morning, without fail, there was hot tea outside my door and a folder of updates on the case. He was meticulous, controlled, everything deliberate. But slowly, in the gaps between legal documents and hushed conversations with his team, I started to see him differently. One evening, I found him in the kitchen alone, sleeves rolled up, attempting to make ramyun. He was staring at the instructions on the packet like they personally offended him. I almost smiled for the first time in days. You run a criminal empire, but you can't boil noodles? He looked up. Something close to embarrassment crossed his face. My chef is unavailable. Move. I took over without thinking. We ate at the kitchen counter that night. No bodyguards, no documents, no tension. Just two people sharing a bowl of ramyun at midnight, like it was the most normal thing in the world. He told me he'd lost his mother young, that he built his empire from nothing, from a city that told him he was worthless. That beneath all the power, he still kept one photograph of her in his desk drawer. I told him about my mother, too. Or how she always said, "A woman who knows her worth never begs for a seat." How I'd spent 6 years forgetting that. You didn't forget it, Shiwu said quietly. You just loved someone who didn't deserve the front row. I looked at him, and for the first time since my world fell apart, I didn't feel alone. It was Nadia who called me, her voice tight and urgent. Evelyn, there's a story breaking online. Someone leaked to the press. They're saying you're the architect of the fraud. Daniel gave a statement. He's calling you the mastermind. My blood ran cold. I walked straight to Shiwu's office and placed my phone on his desk. He read the headline. His jaw tightened, barely visible, but I caught it. You knew this could happen, I said. Yes? Then why didn't you warn me? I didn't think he'd move this fast. That's not good enough. My voice broke open, all the grief, the fear, the exhaustion pouring out at once. I trusted you. I'm in your house, your protection, your operation, and my face is on every news channel right now as a criminal. He stood. Evelyn, did you use me? The question came out raw. Was I just leverage? A way to get to Daniel faster? Something crossed his face. Something real and painful. But he didn't answer fast enough, and in that silence, I heard everything I was afraid of. I grabbed my bag. He stepped forward. Don't, I said, my voice quiet and final. Don't follow me. I walked out, back to Nadia's, back to square one. Back to being alone in a storm with no shelter, and a name being dragged through the mud by a man I had loved and a man I had almost trusted. That night, I cried for the first time since everything started. Not for Daniel, for Shiwu. 3 days of silence. No calls from Shiwu, no messages, nothing. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I didn't need him. I had my lawyer, I had Nadia, I had what little fight I had left. But on the third night, a courier arrived at Nadia's door with a package. Inside was a USB drive, a signed affidavit from Shiwu's forensic team, and a handwritten note. I should have told you everything from the beginning, not because strategy required it, but because you deserved it. That is on me. The affidavit clears your name. My legal team filed it with the prosecutor this morning. Daniel's accounts are frozen. He will not walk away from this. I don't expect you to come back. But I needed you to know that nothing I did was to use you. Some people come into your life and make you realize everything you were building before was just practice. You are not practice, Evelyn. I read it 3 times. Then I sat with it, really sat with it, turning every moment over in my mind. The ramyun at midnight. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. The way he said because someone should have like it cost him something to admit it. Nadia appeared in the doorway. She read my face the way only she could. What are you going to do? She asked. I folded the note carefully. A woman who knows her worth never begs for a seat, but she also knows when someone is offering her one. I stood up, reached for my coat, and looked at Nadia. I'm going to go finish what we started. Shiwu was on the rooftop when I arrived. Same place we first met. Same city lights below. But everything else was different now. The air between us, the ground beneath my feet. I, the woman standing in it. He turned when he heard me. He didn't look surprised, but his eyes, those careful, unreadable eyes, softened in a way I don't think many people ever got to see. You came back, he said. You filed the affidavit before I gave you any reason to, I said. You protected me when I walked out on you. Why? He was quiet for a moment. Because protecting you was never conditional. I crossed the rooftop until I was standing in front of him. I'm not easy, I said. And I come with grief and trust issues and a fraud case that's still technically open. I run a criminal empire, he said, and the corner of his mouth curved, the closest thing to a smile I'd ever seen on him. I'm not easy either. I laughed, a real laugh. The kind I thought I'd lost somewhere in those 6 years with Daniel. Daniel, whose assets were seized the following morning, whose name became the headline he had tried to give me, whose other woman issued a public statement distancing herself from him within the week. He lost everything. And me? I was standing on a rooftop with a dangerous, complicated, extraordinarily tender man who had quietly moved mountains to make sure I was safe before I even knew I needed saving. Shiwu reached out and tucked a loose curl behind my ear. Stay, he said softly. I looked at this city, my city, glittering below us like it was showing off. I looked at him. I'm not going anywhere. Evelyn lost a man who took everything and found one who asked for nothing but her. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories like this and drop a comment. What was the moment you knew Shiwu was different? I'll be reading everyone.